you know, these damn kids always want to explore and do hippie shit, you know, instead of staying in the garage where they're supposed. I don't know why I'm doing a redneck voice. Why can't I just talk normal?
It's perfect. You know, I was on a leash and it saved my life.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode, Adventure of Mind Movers Podcast. This is podcast number 9. Holy shit, about to make it to 10 very soon. Milestone. We're going to be talking about changing education, and it's going to be a mixture of change education and nature university. So that should be exciting. I am one of the hosts at youth_thinking, and I'm joined with my good friend.
What's up, guys? This is Brando. You can find me on Twitter at mind_of_peace. And I'm pretty excited.
Underscore.
Life. And we're going to be talking about some awesome topics today. One that's very near and dear to my heart, education and how we can change it. And, you know, we want to tackle problems and, you know, out of that tackle, we want to stand up with some solutions.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to try and present those today.
Because nobody likes someone who just nitpicks the whole time.
Yeah, we don't want to just nitpick. We're not nitpickers. We want to, I don't know what we want to do, but we want to do something.
We'll try to come up with some solutions towards the end. We'll nitpick in the beginning and then...
That works.
We'll take out some rage on them.
Yeah, we're going to go total rage, but then we're going to go to total meditation mode.
So rage _meditation _mood _mode.
So we're pretty excited. You want to talk about the technical stuff?
Oh, nice. You remembered. All right, guys, we're on iTunes. A lot of people ask. So if you're telling your friends about us or something, let them know to download the podcast app on their iPhone. Or they can go and get the Stitcher app, too, because we're on there. I believe Stitcher's on Android also. But make sure you let them know to subscribe. And that way they don't have to keep checking to see if a new episode comes out. Episodes come out on Sunday. We record on Wednesday. A lot of people have been asking, or saying, I can't wait for the podcast tonight. And it's Wednesday. And we're just recording like we're doing now. And they go up on Sunday. So every Sunday, expect a new podcast on iTunes and on SoundCloud. I think we're able to kind of keep 3 up there lately. I don't think there'll ever be 4, because I don't think we have enough room. We should be having them on YouTube. But why the fuck did you do that? And we've been working really hard on a website, so that should be coming up soon. I almost think maybe even this week we could probably put it up. But
I want it up this week.
Roger that. So we'll have the website put up this week. And that's about it for the technical stuff. Oh, wait. And use hashtag MindMoversPodcast when quoting or asking questions or making comments or calling us out. And when you're being positive and you're giving us constructive feedback, it means a lot to me. And it probably means a lot to you, Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, you know, feel free to criticize negatively, positively, neutrally, whichever. Just, you know, use the Mind Movers Podcast hashtag so we can find it.
All right, let's jump into it. That's enough for the technical bullshit.
All right, we're going to jump into the herb of the week, okay? And let me start off with a quote from Hippocrates. All disease begins in the gut. And that is the quote. So just...
Wow.
Yeah, it's a powerful quote,
Hold on,
though.
I need to go take a walk.
The herb of the week is echinacea. Common names are coneflower and snake root. Family is Compositae. Parts used are the roots and the leaves. Energy is cool. Taste is bitter and pungent. Systems affected: lungs, liver, stomach. Biochemical constituents: essential oils, polysaccharides, and more. Polysaccharides are basically dietary fibers that can be sources of energy, and also dietary fibers that enhance your entire digestive system. It can be used to treat all inflammations, minor, major infections, internal and external, like poison ivy, poison oak, and other things like gangrene, STDs, bug bites, and more.
Oh, dang. I need to go pick some up.
But yeah, like any infection at all or inflammation, it generally takes about 3 days for it to work if you follow the recommended dosage, which you should do, because if you do take too much, I think it can have negative effects. So just,
Echinacea? Like drinking it or applying it?
I guess both. I guess like overusing it can have some kind of negative effect, but that's with anything, really. You just gotta, be smart, use it wisely.
I know with...
Check.
Oh, sorry. Keep going.
Go ahead.
I know with... Jesus.
You go.
I know with echinacea, you're not supposed to drink it in your tea all the time. What I did was I was hanging around someone who was sick, and I was having it every day. Echinacea, because I wanted my immune system to be strong during that time. But I'm not still taking it every day, because when you do that, it's supposed to be harmful. And it probably has to do with the fact that, like, your body might start relying on that as a boost to the immune system.
Right.
And then when you cut it out, boom, it's weak.
Yeah, from my understanding of it, if it's like something minor, like a bug bite, or you got poison ivy, or just an infection, you're sick, you want to take maybe a half a cup every couple hours during the day for like 3 days straight, or until it's cured, which from what I've read takes about 3 days. But if it's something more chronic, like a chronic infection, I think it's 3 cups a day. But if you're perfectly fine, you don't have any infections or serious conditions, you shouldn't be taking it consistently, because that's
I
just
see.
gonna.
What about if you just wanted to take it once a week or something?
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Keep your immune system kind of strong, I guess. Or you feel like, oh, we're gonna have a brutally cold week this week. I should mix in some echinacea in my tea every once in a while this week.
Right,
Kind of
exactly.
keep my immune system strong. And honestly, I hung around my girlfriend. She was sick, and I hung around with her like 4 or 5 days that she was sick. And I was having echinacea tea. Never got sick.
There you go.
So that's pretty cool. Usually I do get sick when I'm hanging out with her and she's sick. It ends up coming. I'm a big fan of it. It's kind of got an earthy taste to it, though, which I don't mind. I like that. I like when things taste like nature.
I like that too. I'm gonna go into a couple more things. Echinacea is as powerful a drug for treating infections and inflammatory conditions as penicillin and other types of antibiotics. However, modern antibiotics are like mini atom bombs going off in your body. They kill all bacteria, both the good and the bad. Bacteria in the body is needed to break down food into vitamins and remove toxins. And the crazy thing is, bacterial cells in your body outnumber human cells 10 to 1. So there's more bacterial cells than human cells in your body. You're basically like, I don't know, something else. You're like a different creature.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah. And there's over 500 types of bacteria living just in your intestines. Your digestive system is often neglected, but it's one of the most important parts of your body. Your digestive system is the engine of the body. It takes the fuel and the other liquids and it puts them where they need to be throughout the vehicle. Okay, so your liver, your stomach, your intestines, all extremely important for everything. If you're putting shitty foods in your gas tank, your body is going to function like it's running on shit. And that's about it. I mean, You can pick up echinacea from mountainroseherbs.com.
Or you can visit our new website, brand spanking new, and click on the herbs section. There's nice fancy pictures and descriptions of all the herbs you need.
Oh, I didn't know that was going to be up before this. All right, yeah. Visit the website because I worked a lot on the herb section.
Yeah,
so
you did. It looks nice.
It's
It
going
looks
to be
pretty.
dope.
Almost as pretty as you.
Almost. All right. What book have you been reading?
I've been interchanging with The Power of Now and...
I'm not sure what happened. I think he might have fell or gotten eaten by some type of ghost. So
really need to get a leash on my backpack.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
I think it's The Book by Alan Watts. I just read a little bit of it before class one day, and it, like, blew my fucking mind, and I'm looking around at everyone like, are you guys experiencing this too, or is it just me? I did one of those. It's pretty hard to go into math class and focus on it when you just learned about, like, society's conditioning and shit. Like, the deeper workings of society and how it's conditioned everything you do. And then walk into a math class and learn math problems. It was very hard, but I got through it, and I'm still here, and I'm alive.
That's awesome. Live in the now, guys.
But yeah,
Live in the now.
I was reading that one in The Power of Now, so it's kind of interchanging. I do that with books, so those are the books I'm reading. What about yourself?
I've been reading, as usual, A Last Child in the Woods by Richard Louv. And it's a book that I've been going in and out of for the past couple months, maybe even a little bit longer than that, kind of taking some knowledge here and there. The book is written about saving our children from nature deficit disorder. It touches on a wide variety of ways that the lack of nature in children and adults' lives, for that matter, can have a negative impact as well as a positive impact on children who are introduced to nature. And it's not just opinionated, because this guy truly does his research. I mean, he went all around the country. He's got quotes from children, students, parents, teachers, politicians. He's looked into just... The book is filled with research stats and studies, and, you know, there's a lot of information in there that kind of, like, was like, whoa, is that true? And then you look it up and you kind of look into it more. It's like, yeah, that is true. That's really sad. There's this one passage that is near and dear to me. I think it's just truly inspiring. The one passage is called Touching the Sky with a Stick, and it's basically about these troubled teens in San Diego, and I think they're, like, on probation, and the judge is trying to figure out what to do with them, and instead of probation, one of the attorneys or lawyers or whatever gets them into this program, or he actually starts this program where some celebrities kind of gathered some money together, like football players and stuff, and they sent these kids to a remote island off the coast of Alaska, and they live with these tribal people, and it just changes these kids' lives. They come back and they're new people. They're totally different. Their outlook on life is insane. I have a couple quotes from the kids after they got back.
Share them.
All right. A girl dressed in neo-hippie garb added, "I never saw a bear before. I'm scared of bears. But when I saw them, I had no stress. I was calm, free. You know what was great? Picking berries. It was addictive like cigarettes," she laughed. "Just the picking, one being out in the bushes."
Holy shit.
Yeah.
The
So,
answer.
that's insane. There's another one. Oh, "I met a little boy and spent a lot of time with him," said one of the young women in the room. "She had long dark hair and eyes as bright as the midnight sun. One day I was outside. This was right before we went into a sweat lodge, and he asked me, 'Can you touch the sky with a stick?' I answered, 'No, I'm too short.' He looked at me with disgust and said, 'You're weak. How do you know you can't touch the sky with a stick if you don't even try?'" That was from a 4-year-old.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Dude, like we said in that last Change Education podcast, kids are fucking geniuses.
Oh yeah, I know, dude. They're super geniuses. We just don't let them speak. We're always muzzling them and stuff. One more thing I wanted to share from it, because this was pretty interesting also. I was reading about this one research where this guy actually goes around and he is putting gardening into elementary schools and maybe even middle schools. And this is what one of the girls says about the gardening program. I believe this is fourth grade. For us, the garden has been much more than simply planting vegetables and taking care of them. It's been a bonding experience. When we go to the garden as a class at the end of the day, there's a strong feeling of shared joy and peace, no matter how hard the day has been.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so there's a lot of great stuff going on, and the book touches on that. And the movement is there. It's just small, but there are a lot of schools who are starting to remove technology. They're starting to come up with programs where the kids go out into the environment, learning in the environment, cleaning out rivers, rebuilding, damaged forests, stuff like that. So it's really interesting. It's cool stuff. Check that book out. It's called Last Child in the Woods by Richard Louv.
And you guys can totally look for our whole book list on our new website, which should be up soon. And I don't know, it's just an easy place for people to go and look to see which kind of books that you and I would recommend. That's really what it is our recommendations on books, which a lot of people tweet and ask us for. And the book list will always get bigger as our podcasts grow too. Interesting point that came to mind when you said a lawyer came up with this program for these kids to go out in nature. That kind of ties into my ideas of how you can fix the system right now. Is you play that game, you get into that role that you dislike, and you change the way people look at that role. That lawyer went in and was like, I know lawyers have bad reps, and I don't like most lawyers. But I'm going to get into that lawyer position, and I'm going to try to change it within. There's a generation, our generation, that are becoming teachers now. And it's like up to them to have that courage to not look at the fear and say, I'm going to try to teach these kids what I think. I'm going to teach these kids what I think is going to help them. And I'm not going to listen to the rules or anything like that. So I like that you brought that. I'm sure we'll touch on this later on in the podcast, but I like that you brought that up, that it was a lawyer. It's still
and when you
human.
do that, you have to do that with integrity. You can't go in there half-assed. If you get a teacher job and then, you buy a house, you buy a car, well, now you're locked in, because if you lose your job, you lose everything you got. Mm-hmm. You got to go in there with integrity, okay? And maybe even go in there with nothing to lose.
Yep.
But everything to gain, really.
That's what the generation has to do. I don't know if it's ours or the one or the one below us, but one of the generations has to go in there with, we don't have anything else left to lose. And I don't know if that's ours, but there is going to be a generation that they're going to be like, look, everything's shit right now. I don't have anything to lose. I'm going to get this teaching job. I'm going to do it my way until they fire me. And then I'm going to find another place and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do whatever I have to do, start my own school if I have to. But I'm going to fix this. I'm not going to listen to what rules I think are wrong. And that's a huge problem, because you have teachers right now that are like, I don't like doing this to the kids, but it's my job and that's what I have to do. Then the next day they'll be like, how could you do that to the kids, to like maybe a parent treating their kids wrong? And it's like, you're labeling it so it makes you feel better about what you're doing versus what they're doing. And that doesn't really make any sense.
It's still the same thing. You're still making a shitty decision just as they are.
Yeah. And we try to sugarcoat that decision to make ourselves feel better about it. I don't think the generation before us has the guts to break out of it. And sometimes we forget that. A teacher's a human being too, so I'm definitely not encouraging kids to go in there and treat teachers like shit, because you don't do that. That's not the way you fix it. That person is stuck. That person is lost. That person needs just as much help as you do. They're stuck in a system And I bet a lot of teachers feel fucking trapped. And that's not an easy thing. As kids, we always have kind of a rebellious attitude. But as you get older, that stuff gets kind of conditioned out of you. And you start to settle into a role. I don't know. I don't want people going into class and being like, listen to this podcast. I don't have to listen to you. Fuck you. You know, like it's not going to solve anything. We got to be smart about it at this point. Like that time might come later on, but I don't think that time's now.
I agree. And now a word from our sponsors. Hey, I'm Bill Schmores with Children Pets, and I've been a child veterinarian for over 25 years now. Today, I want to talk to you about child safety. Do your children act like children? Are you too obese to keep up with your children? Are you trying to recreate that moment after birth when the umbilical cord is still attached? Do you ever feel like getting pissed drunk and completely ignoring your children? Are you an extremely selfish parent? Well, worry no more. We've got the product for you. Child leashes. They come in 2 sizes, short and shorter, and many styles like fluffy, leather, chain, umbilical, and velvet, and many more. With multiple different color selections. Order now and get 2 for the price of 1. Call in the next 10 minutes and we'll throw in a free muzzle. And a special right now, call in the next 5 minutes and we'll throw in free biscuits laced with Ritalin. And coming on the air with us right now is a customer testimonial named John from Wisconsin. You're on the air, John. How's it going?
Yeah, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, hey, Bill. Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure to have you. So tell us about your experience with the child leashes.
Well, I was wandering around Walmart and goddamn kid kept running around, had to go find him, you know. We all have those problems. And I was over at the pets area, I think it was around the pets area, and I saw some dog leashes. And I also saw some child leashes. And I was like, well, that's kind of strange. These are right next to the pet leashes. It's a little weird, but whatever. You know, I need to control my kid. It's not my responsibility to, you know, make sure he's always around, so why not Sorry, I'm back. He ran off again, but got to put his leash on and his muzzle. But I took it home. It was nice. I bought the organic one. Looks like an umbilical cord, extra short. You know, every time I go outside, it's great because he doesn't run off. He can't. He's attached to me. You know, these damn kids always want to explore and do hippie shit, you know, instead of staying in the garage where they're supposed. The teacher really loves it because she can just tie it to the desk. You know, these kids are so spontaneous and they're supposed to be controlled. And the Ritalin didn't work. We tried a whole bottle one day, and the muzzle really works great.
What we want to do today is we want to send you not just one free muzzle, not just a free leash or some Ritalin biscuits. We want to send you a whole gift basket filled with muzzles, Ritalin, leashes, weight vests that you can... This is a new product we have coming out. These are weight vests with magnets in them. And what you do is you put this magnetic strip on the wall and you just put him right on the strip and he sticks to the wall. He doesn't move at all. Because if you're a parent and you're not completely in control of your kids' lives, they're going to get all mixed up with the bad folks in the neighborhood.
Yeah, definitely with all that hippie stuff about loving nature, loving other people. I don't really buy it, frankly.
I feel bad for people who have an accent that are listening to our podcast right now. They're like, what the fuck is this? They turning it off.
And I'm Bill Schmores with Children Pets. Thanks.
And we're back. You know, we don't necessarily agree with everything that our sponsor says. But, I mean, at this point, you know, you take what you can get. We got a website to run. We got a podcast to run, and it costs a lot of money. Hopefully you guys didn't get too angered by that sponsorship.
Thanks for bearing through it.
I wish we could mute it or something, but we can't. So you're just going to have to deal with them from here on out.
Anyway, let's dive into it.
Change Education, Nature University.
Here it goes.
So what kind of ideas do you want to bring to the table today?
All right. Well, I think we should start with questions because isn't that how everything kind of happens? You
Yeah,
start asking
I agree.
questions.
Let's ask questions, let's nitpick, and then we'll try to solve them.
All right. Well, are teachers educators or are they authority figures?
That's a good question.
I think they can be both because teachers can give you some knowledge, but in the way that they do it, it's not like they're trying to get you to understand it. They're kind of just regulating what you're doing in class. They're not like, oh, Billy doesn't understand this. Let me go over to his table and really, really help him understand it. It's like, no, fuck you, Billy. You suck. Anyway, Tiffany's doing great. Tiffany's getting an A in this class. Like, it's all about the grades, and it's
Yeah.
all about, being that top teacher so you can get that raise or whatever, so your school can look good, so you can get more funding. So in that particular manner, I think it's more maybe authoritarian.
I agree. It reminds me of listening to an Alan Watts lecture, and he said that teachers, adults, need to become again as a child in order to get into the kingdom of heaven. That was a requirement to become again as a child. And what that is kind of like getting down to their level and realizing that you have just as much to learn from them as they do you. And we talked about this in the last podcast, is it's a two-way street. And a lot of teachers don't see it that way. They see it kind of high and mighty, like it's my duty, it's my call to mold these children. And it's just like, no, that's not really your role. Like, and I kind of feel like kids wouldn't deal with it if they were taught the right way. And a lot of parents shy away because they kind of discredit themselves, say, well, I'm not the teacher. That's why we send you to school, to get educated. Right. So you have to listen to them because they know better. I don't know that stuff. I don't know. That's a really good question. And I would say a lot of them are being authority figures for sure.
Yeah, I mean, another thing I've noticed in classes is where I think we talked about this also on the last podcast is how we learn about skills and not the actual skills. But it's like, how can we learn about a skill and never learn the skill? How can we learn a skill and never learn about the skill? It's like they're doing, you have wood shop class, you learn about that. But then you don't learn all the other stuff. You don't learn about wood. They don't teach you about the different trees that you can use. You don't really get into that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then, you might have a math class, but you don't really learn about where to apply math, how it works, how it can connect, how it connects everything in the universe. They don't get into that. It's like one or the other, I've noticed. And I think what we need to do is we need to come up with a system where kids are not only getting hands-on experience, but they're also getting mental experience and mental knowledge.
I agree with that. Kind of like learning complex fractions and rational expressions. And it's just like you're spending 16 weeks learning about rational expressions and complex fractions and all these weird math problems. And it doesn't really make any sense. I used to judge the kids in school when they would say, when are we going to use this in life? And I always didn't like those kids because I was like that kid that went to school and just did my work. But now I understand that they kind of had a point. You have parents telling you that life's short, go live your life, do the things you want to do. And then it's just you're sitting in class for 3 hours learning about math problems that you don't really want to learn about. And that's a fucking struggle. I'm still doing that now, and it's very hard because my mind is like, this isn't what I want to learn right now. This isn't helping me with the things I want to learn right now. I just want to get up and leave, and I can't because I want to get through it. I want to be able to speak about education having gone through it, and that's just what I want to do. I want to experience it. I want to learn the game. I've been in college for a little while. I think I have kind of figured out the game. And now it's just like I'm using formula generators and shit for my 4 hours of homework and shit. I'm using generators to cheat on my math homework, and I'm getting 91. My first test I got 103% on. And it's like, but I still have to do the homework. That takes me like 8 hours to do all of them.
But you know it.
But I know it. But you have to do it. So it's just like, I guess that's where the authority comes in. It's like, you need to do this. It's no longer like, oh, you understand the material? Okay, that's fine. You don't have to do the rest of the math problems. Just take the test. It's fine. You need to do these because they're for points. What?
Points? What am I doing with points?
Do these points carry over when I get out of here? Like, do they go to my bank account? What's going on?
Hey, I'm looking for a job. Yeah, I got lots of points. My teacher, she gave me lots of points. So does that help? Am I hired? No?
I remember.
No, I don't have any real life skills at all.
I have points though.
I have points.
Heard they're a real bargain on eBay. I also remember a teacher saying, well, you don't have to study for the exam if you actually paid attention the whole semester. And I got really angry by that. And then now when I think about it in a totally different way. Because technically he's right. If you're learning it, you shouldn't have to bust ass for the finals. So here's my question. Why are the best students in the class spending days in the library to pass your exam? Something's not working. If the smartest kid in the class has to bust ass to pass the exam or get a really good grade on the exam, they're not learning the material either during the semester.
No.
That means something's wrong. And instead of like examining the curriculum, they're saying, oh, we just need to pump up, the curriculum. We need to throw more things in. We need to get more covered within the weeks that each semester is. And it's like, that's not going to fix it.
Bigger textbooks, iPads, we need more funding. Like, no, you don't really need, yeah, it would be cool to get more funding, but you don't need more funding. You just need a kid with the will and the desire to learn. That's really all you need.
Yep. And you have adults in suits that think they know how to run a school. Sometimes they don't even include the teachers in this. They don't include kids usually. A lot of times they might not include the teacher. They just roll out the curriculum and they're like, this is what we need you to teach. And that doesn't make a whole lot of sense either. So we'd have to keep that in mind when we start Nature University.
Yeah,
we start
I
designing
think
our own curriculum, which will be sit out in nature and figure out what you want to learn.
Dude, I think an awesome idea would be more teachers in the classroom, because in a time where the economy is so down and there's no jobs, why not more educators? Why not create, more educated people? Mm-hmm. If we're putting 5 teachers in a classroom instead of, if we have one teacher per 5 or 10 kids instead of one teacher per 10 or 20, or college, there's 60 kids in one class learning from one professor. Why not do that? Why not get more specialized? But the problem is a lot of that funding gets cut, and that funding goes to military. So we're dropping bombs rather than, reading books. I think it's pretty fucking stupid. But
I like the saying when someone asks you what you're doing with your life and you're like, well, I'm working. Oh, you going to college? No, I'm not going to college anymore. Oh, that's okay. College isn't for everyone. And it's like, but high school is? Middle school is? Elementary school is? How come it's just college ain't for everyone? Yeah. How is college that much different than high school? It's not really. You have a little more freedom to not go to class. Like, that's about it. I don't see high school that different than college, really.
Modern education is like having a gazelle and sloth race to a watering hole, and the winner gets to drink and the loser can just suffer. That's my depiction of modern education system.
Yeah, and here's another thing that I've noticed is when people bash education, there are people that stand up for education and be like, hey, it's not all that bad. It's really not that bad. What you're saying is not true. Here's another question. Who is more unconscious? The person who knows that education is not for them, or the person who's going around telling everyone that they're confused about knowing whether or not education's for them? The person that's tweeting and saying, hey, you need to stop ripping on education. You just need to try harder. Who's more unconscious at that point? You have a person that knows it doesn't work for them. It's not my duty to go out and say, look, education doesn't work for you, doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for anybody. It works for some people. It really does. There are some kids out there that are super traditional. They have the personalities that like routine, and they can handle school, and it works for them. They learn a lot from it. The problem is there's a large portion of kids that it doesn't work for. Didn't work for you, didn't work for me. It's not that we're lazy. It's not that, we just want to fool around and goof off. It's just we realize at a young age that this isn't the way we learn. There's something wrong here, and it's hard for us to focus. Shouldn't there be a backup? Shouldn't there be a safety net for people like us? I mean, I don't expect you to go to McDonald's and be like McDonald's. If you don't like McDonald's, you get to go to Burger King, Wendy's. If you hate fast food, you can go to the grocery store and make your own food. But for some reason, there's one system, and that's education, and you have to go to it. And a lot of the curriculums are the same. You don't have another choice. You can't bail out and say, I want to go somewhere else. I mean, there's homeschooling, but parents are pretty fucking busy.
In this economy, I mean, a parent on average only see their children for 20 minutes a day. That's it.
Holy shit.
So basically, you see your kid in the morning. Okay, bye, go to school. You wake up, you're half asleep. You don't really connect at all. You ship them off to Nazi camp, and they get back. They're home, they're goofing off, whatever. You come home at like 5, you cook some dinner, you ask them some stupid small talk. Isn't that the craziest thing? The kids that the kids of parents, they're like, you're so connected to your kids, right? And only going to talk small talk with them. That's it. All they get is a boring conversation at the dinner table. How was your day? What'd you do in school? That's it. The nice weather we're having. That's the conversation you want to have with your kids? Yeah. Come on. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
And then you wish them off good night to bed, and that's it. And that's all the time the average parent spends with their kids.
That's pretty
lame.
Yeah, that raises another idea in my brain dome. Maybe this is just a way for parents to get free or not free, but it's a form of daycare for parents. Honestly, you have to go to work 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. Whoa, there's this place down the street called such and such elementary school that watches our kids from 8 to fucking 2:30. This is awesome. We only have to put them in a daycare for 3 hours, and they'll learn. This is great. Let's buy some leashes while we're at it.
For the weekend. Let's get some leashes for the weekend.
And that's why probably some parents don't really care about their kids playing video games, because they're out of their hair. They're distracted. And instead of being distracted by I shouldn't say the right, but instead of being distracted by natural things like nature, I was distracted by nature growing up. I had a pond in my backyard, and I was out there every day catching frogs, catching fish, catching whatever I could, and I would just walk around it over and over and over.
Yeah, I mean, I was always in nature as a kid. I mean, I love nature. I'm going backpacking this week, so I'm pretty excited.
Nice.
But a couple key points I want to touch on is that children learn through their senses and influence. So, see, touch, hear, smell, and taste. Those are the biggest things that you learn from. You learn through experience. And you also learn from your influence, the people you're around. You learn from you model your environment, kind of. So if you're in a bad environment or a good environment, the chances are you're going to wind up like that bad or good environment. I mean, you can always break the cycle. That's not impossible, but it's very difficult to do. A lot of the problem is when children are modeling their environment, whether it's, a parent, TV, any kind of technology really, a teacher or a friend, you have to ask the question, are these people, are these things in their lives, are they guides or are they controllers? Are they controlling what they're doing, or are they guiding them?
Mm-hmm.
And I think in a lot of cases, it's mostly control.
It makes me think of nature. It's crazy that video games have a way of like making you spellbound and they kind of control you. But when you're wandering in the woods, do you ever feel like nature is forcing you to be there, or like it's like an addiction in a different sense? It's like if you're addicted to a video game, that's way different than like you wanting to go backpacking all the time. It has a way of not being very harmful to you. Does that make sense? It's almost like when we create things to be fun and entertaining, they have all these side effects. But nature's been doing it for how long? 3 billion years or something? It's perfected this environment.
Nature just calls, like
Yeah.
I see a tree and it's like, man, I just want to be in a forest right now. Let me plant something. Let me get out there.
Yep.
Or let me just go, to the nearest grove of trees or small patch of forest I can find, or even just a field, anything, honestly.
And
just connect.
Yeah, and it's like a reminder. Whereas a video game's like, you need to play me. The trees are like, hey, you haven't visited us in a while. You want to come hang out?
Yeah, calm down a little bit.
That sounds fun.
You're playing a video game, it's always rush through it as fast as possible. Rush through, driving to work, got to get there as fast as possible. At work, I got to get these papers done as fast as possible. Go home. I can't wait to get home. I got to get home as fast as possible. I got to cook dinner as fast as possible. I got to do this as fast as possible. As fast. I'm having a panic attack.
You sound like something else happened right there.
Yeah, and that's what our society is becoming. We're constantly in a rush and we're missing everything around us.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me of this amazing quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson, one of my favorites. Love this guy. Adopt the pace of nature. Her secret is patience. And I think if we can incorporate nature in children's lives, I think they'll become more patient, more relaxed, less anxiety, less stress. Because
Definitely.
Let's face it, it's crazy how much pressure we put on these kids. We've got there's entrance exams to kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
There's entrance exams for 4th grade. Like, why are you holding kids back? Or like, why are you testing them? They're 4 years old. They can barely wipe their ass, and you're giving them a test on algebra. Come on.
Yeah,
That's bullshit.
and go ahead.
There's a system in Finland, and Finland's schools are ranked number 1 or in the top 5 for like many different categories, science and math and writing and all this kind of stuff. And they have a completely different system. The way they work is kids don't go to school until they're 7 years old. They only learn for 45 minutes at a time, and after every 45, they have a 15-minute break where they can go outside and do like whatever they want. I mean, I'm sure they can't go to the back alley and snort meth, but they can do almost anything they want. They can play in the grass or whatever. I'm sure they have trees, whatever. And then they come back, they're more relaxed, their mind is, less stressed, and then they learn. Mm-hmm. And then they go out and they learn and go out and learn. And I think that's something that should be brought over to the U.S. and put in all schools.
It kind of makes me think of how we have this whole crisis of trying to be more green, trying to take care of the environment. But then you look at a child and where most of their life is spent, it's at home inside of a box, and then it's at school inside of a box. It used to be you didn't have so much homework that you could go outside and play. And now they've extended that homework time, so you don't really have time to even go outside. You barely have time to breathe. You're doing homework. So if you think about it, the more you're interacting with nature as a kid, the more respect you have for it. You know, the kid who gets to go outside and play after every 45 minutes for 15 minutes. Let's say that kid becomes a scientist. That kid grows up to be a scientist that was exposed to nature a lot more than maybe some of the scientists we have today, or maybe some of the scientists that will be scientists soon, or some of the kids that will be scientists soon. They didn't get into nature. They're going to create things without even thinking about that tree they played in as a child. But the children that are exposed, they have time to go out and do that, they become scientists too. And when they invent things, subconsciously they're thinking about that tree they played in. They're thinking about that pond. They're thinking about the environment. They're thinking about Earth because they grew up with it. It was their teacher just as much as the teacher in the classroom. You know, that I'm glad you brought that up, that Finland thing, because they're balancing it out.
Yeah.
They're saying, like, hey, it's actually kind of bad to stay in this box for this long at this desk. We need to go outside, stretch. It used to just be you need to do it because it's physical activity. But it's more than that, dude. There's a lot of psychology behind it.
In Finland, I believe one of the quotes from the president of the school board, he said, not word for word, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, education is not in the information, but in the environment. And I totally agree with what you're saying like that, because if you're someone who's never been in nature, you're clearly not going to care for it. Just like Teddy Roosevelt, for example. I was reading about him, and as a kid, he was always in nature. He had pets, he had a pet turtle, and he loved to go outside. Every morning he would wake up early and run in the woods, and he loved nature. And that stuck with him his entire life. And he went on, I talked about John Muir experience with him in the last podcast, where John Muir took him out to Yosemite and he saw this great valley, and he went on to preserve over 230 million acres of land. And I think if more people had that connection with nature as a child, they would have a reason. They'd go to cut that tree down. They'd be like, you know what? When I was a kid, I fucking loved that tree. And someday, I bet there's a kid who loves this tree. So I'm not going to cut it down.
And
I'm going to work.
And this tree, and that tree, and all of a sudden it turns into a giant forest.
Yeah, and I'm going to work on ways to do this without cutting trees down, because I don't think that's necessary. We have plenty of wood. We have plenty of supplies. We have 14 million homes and 3 million homeless people. We have 14 million vacant homes and 3 million homeless. I think we have enough supplies. We're good. We've got a warehouse full of them in every state. There's a Lowe's with lumber. We're good. We got enough supplies. Let's just chill out for a little bit and let some shit regrow. And this place I'm going to in a couple days is Allegheny State Park, or National Forest, actually. And I was reading about how much they destroyed this land. I mean, when we came here, the forestry companies obliterated millions and millions and millions of just hundreds of years of growth. And right now, out of millions of square miles of forest on the Allegheny Plateau, there's only a 20-mile by 20-mile area of forest that hasn't been touched. And that's it. So out of millions of miles, we've got 40 square miles of nature that hasn't been touched. That's pretty pathetic.
Yeah, and it's like, if we want to get past this idea of, if you want to save nature, we need government to come out with laws. Okay, we need to get past that. We need to take it a step further. And we might have got onto something here. Maybe it's because schools are just clamping down, and they're using all the tools they can to keep that kid inside in front of a computer doing homework. And if you've noticed the trend, I think the trend of homework, the amount of time spent on homework, is going up. It's really taking away from your time spent in nature. And it's like, can you imagine I don't know if any dude would become a forest person, or a forester, you said it was?
I think it's called like forestry.
Forestry. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think any person would participate with that if they spend a lot of time enjoying nature as a child. You know, you don't have to tell somebody that, hey, you're supposed to respect nature. That doesn't work. You put them in the environment as a child, they explore, they grow attached to that. They realize that, hey, this is living just like me. And
Yeah.
you might actually have, well, I know that for a fact. You are probably more attached to nature than I am. I went out in my backyard and played in the pond a lot, but it sounds like you definitely went out and hung out in nature a lot more than I did. So it's kind of interesting that you bring points to the table that help me, look at it in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, we would walk to school, and before school every morning, we would go and hang out in this hole that we dug. I mean, let me tell you, we spent so much time digging this hole in the woods. We were digging through roots and stuff. It was like impossible, but we dug this awesome hole so we could just chill in nature and like hang out in there without anyone messing with us. And we'd go out there every day just digging this hole, like for no reason, just because we wanted to. And we wanted to hang out in the woods, and we did everything in the woods. I remember one time we were playing like manhunt in the woods, and we were hiding in the bushes. And we came out, we probably were covered in ticks. That didn't stop us though. We went out there, picked them off. We went back in. I mean, it
Yeah,
wasn't a
but
big
don't
deal.
you know they have Lyme disease? We can't be letting our kids out there, man.
Oh my God, they're gonna die. And the work overload that you mentioned is something that's ridiculous and completely getting out of hand. We completely overschedule our kids. And I'm gonna read you a quote from Last Child in the Woods. This quote is actually quite sad. I hope you're ready for this.
I'm not.
Okay. I asked a class of 5th and 6th graders at an elementary school in San Diego to describe their schedules. The comment of one girl was typical. I don't really have much time to play at all because I have piano lessons. My mom makes me practice for about an hour every day, and then I have my homework, and that's about an hour's worth. And then I got soccer practice, and that's from 5:30 to 7, and then there's no time left over to play. On weekends we usually have soccer games, and I have to practice piano, and then I have to do yard work, and then I have the chores, and then I'm free to play, which is only about 2 hours, 3 hours, something like that. So this kid is, she's talking about her experiences during the week about how her parent overschedules her with, piano, music, and this and that, and which are cool skills. But if your kid really doesn't want to do that, why are you pushing them to do that?
Yeah, that's messed up. I mean, I don't mean to compare kids to dogs, but hey, we're all one. You have a puppy, right? And it's actually highly recommended by people that train dogs that you take that puppy and you expose it to as much as you can. So this dog doesn't bark at everything. This dog doesn't freak out about car rides. You have it do everything you can. But when you take a kid who's super curious and crawling away from you because it wants to explore and you think it's just trying to get into trouble and needs to stay right here, you have to remember that every time you're doing that, every time you're making this person do one thing, piano lessons, one thing, soccer practice, one thing, yard work, you're limiting that child's natural curiosity. It's nature's way of making kids intelligent faster. That curiosity, that kid. It's crazy how fast kids learn how to walk. There's a reason for that, because they have this drive to want to go explore. They want to fall down the stairs. They want to experience everything. They want to touch the hot pan. They want to play in the mud. They want to leave. They want to go play in the trees. And it's sad, man, that we're like, no, you need to do this because I know what's best for you. I think it's possible that nature already hardwired what it thinks we need in our brains as a child. And it's crazy. You hang out with some kids and they are so curious, man. And to tell them, like, not now, wait till after school. It's just like you're shutting off something that I feel is super crucial to that child's life.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to go out and explore, exploration is the same thing as wanting to learn. They want to learn, and you're saying no. That kid wants to go out and learn new things and experience new experiences and take in different information that they've never seen before. And you're telling them no, you can only learn from a textbook.
Of course, man. Of course, it's no, Brandon. Learning a bunch of new things is ADHD, Brandon.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay?
that's another big
It's
one
ADD.
too.
If you can't focus on one thing, you have ADD.
Oh,
yeah, it's
man,
just, dude, spend some time with kids, dude. You will learn so much about education when you just hang out with a kid, and you realize that like this little dude is actually super smart. This little chick right here is actually super smart. And I've seen kids that are controlled, and I've seen kids that are free to roam. And the parents are there to make sure they don't seriously hurt themselves. But, let's say this kid picks up, a walnut, one of those green ones, and we all know as a kid when we bit into them, they tasted like crap. They're like super bitter. But they didn't take it real fast. No, don't eat that. It's bitter. They just said, we'll see what happens. And the kid bit into it and made the face and
that was it.
Tried it again and then just to confirm and then dropped it. And it's like you got to be careful how much you control. You really do, and it's a constant tug of war.
Yeah, I mean the kid's not going to learn about the hot stove until he puts his hand on it or they put their hand on something really hot. That's how they learn. You learn through experience.
Mm-hmm. And we're limiting our child's experiences by forcing them to be in things that are going to help in the future. That's the weirdest thing. That the future doesn't exist, but we put kids in school to help them for their future.
A lot of the stuff a lot of the curriculum I find in schools is quite random and just useless information. I mean, a little bit here. They touch on like all these different topics instead of just. I mean, it's good that they teach on a broad variety of topics, but how much are they actually learning about these topics except for memorizing random facts that may or may not even be facts? They're just kind of memorizing some random information. The way I look at information is the difference between modern education and reading random Snapple Cap facts for 12 years is very little. Very little. There's very little difference. You're reading a bunch of random facts for 12 years that you don't remember. Name one Snapple Cap fact that you remember. I can't think of any right now. Maybe one or two that I recently read.
Maybe one or two. Here, let me check my Snapple bottle cap collection real quick.
And I don't remember that shit. So it's like, are we teaching kids just to memorize, or do we truly want them to understand? Because something that I've been saying for maybe the past year is to understand is to know, to remember is to forget. And I've really been going off on that and applying that to my life because I'm finding that if I don't understand it, I don't know it, and I won't know it at all.
Mm-hmm.
But once you do understand it, you know it. Like, you don't have to let me check the book. Okay, yeah, that's what it is. No, you know it. And that's like kind of how you describe people doing what they love. They don't need to look at the book to tell you about what they love. They know.
Mm-hmm.
They know what they love. They know all the details about it. But if you're asking a kid in 8th grade to tell you about a math problem, he's probably going to have to refer to the book and look into it because he doesn't remember. Or maybe he does remember, but ask him a month later, ask him a year later. I guarantee he doesn't remember. I don't remember any of the math shit. Like, I did really, really good in math. Ace that shit, right? And now my girlfriend's younger brother, I'm like helping him with math problems. And I'm like, I don't know any of this shit. He's like in like 7th grade. I'm like, this is the simplest stuff. I don't even know it.
Yeah. They
So
just increase or they basically take what you learned in ninth grade and push it to eighth graders, and then they push it to seventh graders, and then they push it to sixth graders, and they keep, oh, we just need to teach them math earlier, and then they'll get it. And it's just like, what are you doing? It's weird because you have teachers that are like, you need to think about your future. And you have kids like me that think way past what they're thinking about. I'm taking let's say, an accounting class, or let's say I'm taking a Microsoft Excel class. That's a good one. Microsoft Excel or Microsoft Word. The teacher says, oh, you need to learn this. Think about your future. And I go, I'm thinking about the bigger ideas. I'm thinking way past what you're thinking. You're thinking 3 years down the road. I'm thinking when Excel gets trashed and replaced by a new program, and I just spent this year learning how to use Excel. That's what I think about. So you have a specific set of kids that fit within that thinking of, I think 3 years down the road. You have kids that think present moment all the time. I'm sure you know. Sometimes they frustrate us. It's like, why won't that person ever think before they make a decision? But that's the way they live. They're like little Buddhas running around all the time. And they think present moment. So they don't fit in the school system because they're not planning anything out. Teacher gets frustrated with those kids. Then the teacher gets frustrated with me because I think about crazy ideas. That's why this podcast is perfect. This is our learning, you know? And I can't talk about these things in class. I have to talk about math and Microsoft Word. And it's just like, so it's not working for me. So there's two categories of people that school isn't working for. What do we do with them? Where do they go? Where's the backup plan?
They go to Nature University. All right? I think that's where they should go.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, first thing that happens when you get to Nature University, you put the kids in a room and they go, and you give them a chalkboard like that movie Accepted. And at the top, you just put, what do you want to learn? And the kids write on the board.
Whoa, is our Professor Peanautic Express?
He could be. And now you have a list of what the kids want to learn.
Yeah.
And you go out and you hire people who know these type of things, and you bring them in temporarily. I think that's an interesting idea. And that way, you know...
Dude, you should describe your classroom right now, and I'll describe mine.
Like your idea of a perfect classroom?
Like yours. Like you have a class. How are you gonna run it in Nature University? And
okay.
The director says, Brandon, you have all the tools you need here at Nature University. Do whatever you feel is necessary to teach the kids in your class.
Well, I think it would mainly be dependent on what they wanted to learn. But I would also try to teach a lot of values that can apply to everyone, not just physical things, not just one skill. Like, I'm only going to teach piano, or I'm only going to teach guitar, or I'm only going to teach you how to read. No, I'm going to get in there. And this is mostly if they're a younger generation, because once you get of older age, you're going to want to get more specific.
Yeah.
So if I'm dealing with a younger, more elementary type class, I would definitely have a garden. Because there's so much to learn from a garden. Here's the thing about a garden. You're literally raising parents. You're teaching kids how to be parents. And I think that's amazing because the parents, from what I've seen, are not very good parents. I think it's kind of odd how parents have to use self-help books like how to raise your kid books, or is your kid acting out of line? Here, read this book and learn how to be a parent. Like, no, you're a parent. That's what you are. You're supposed to know. And I don't think children learn that when they're a kid. And I think that's something they need to learn. And by raising their own food, they'll be able to figure that out. They'll have that bond. They'll have that bond with the food. They'll connect with it. And take them outside, rebuild some stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
reading,
Yep.
open reading. Read whatever book you want to read. And what you could do is I would have kids go out and explore and learn something new. And the next day, I want them to share it with the class. I want them to share what they learned. So, after school, that's your homework. Go learn something, and then tomorrow you're going to share it with the class and teach it to everybody. And I think that would be interesting.
Be a fun class. Nature Elementary.
Science, writing, art, we touch on those topics. They'd all be outdoors, though. I mean, where else can you get inspiration for art other than outside? Science?
Totally.
How are you going to learn about science from a paper book? That doesn't make any sense. You got to be out in science to learn science.
That'd be a cool class.
Yeah, I mean, I teach the kids about trees by showing them the trees, not by putting a projector up and putting an image of a tree on the wall.
Are you some kind of tree-hugging hippie?
You know what? I might be a tree hugger. Yeah, let me hear your classroom.
All right, here's my classroom. Kids show up. I start off the class indoors, and I say, we're not going to stay in here. Let's go outside. That's how it starts. So we go outside, right? There's an island that I built, and it has books on the island. Books scattered everywhere. There's books stacked on branches like they're little shelves. Like the trees are bookshelves, and they're holding books. And it's like a little hunt. And there's no order or anything. The books are just kind of put in the branches. Problem is, there's water surrounding the island, and there's a boat. There's everything the kids need to make a boat to get to the island. Say there's like 10 to 15 kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, I'm sure there's lots of things you guys want to learn, and everything you want to learn about is on that island. But you have a problem. There's a boat here that can get you to that island, but it's not put together. And really the only way you're going to get it together is if you all work together. And while they're working together, I would observe who's taking leadership roles, who's like a really good helper, who keeps all the screws and bolts and nuts organized, who's the strong one that rows majority of the time. Those kids would learn so much within that. They would learn how to work together. They would find their roles naturally. They wouldn't have to be told, hey, you seem like a leader. You took this test, and It said you're a leader. Be a leader. No, they would find that role. They would kind of morph into that role, build the boat. They would start rowing, and it wouldn't be like our kids today where they're like, well, I rowed majority of the way. I feel like I did my fair share. I'm not doing anymore. Because now none of them get there. And you'll see kids making sacrifices. I'll row a little bit more because I'm stronger. And everyone's like, okay. And they make deals between each other. Like they cooperate, they collaborate, and they get to the island. And now they're just free to explore. They made it. And my job as a teacher is to come up with new tasks every time to get to where they need to go to learn. I put learning in a spot where they have to do something to get to that learning. Whether it's you pick up a flower and you're trying to learn something from it by staring at it and thinking about something. Like, what can this flower teach me? What can this tree teach me? You post that stuff tweeting all the time. Look at how much these trees can teach you. It's endless how much they can teach you because everyone's going to pull something different out of that one thing to learn.
Trees are Zen masters.
Yeah. And someone might say something completely unique to what you said. And you could probably have millions of kids come up with different things that trees teach them. And there's no right or wrong answer. And that's the beauty of it. Yeah, totally. It can teach you that. You're wise for coming up with that, seeking that answer out.
I really like how you the boat idea, how the kids naturally selected their roles, because I think that's a very huge problem in our society. We want to constantly push them into these roles where, like, you have to be a piano player, but really, maybe he's not a piano player. Maybe he's I don't know, a writer. And then meanwhile, the other parent, you have to be a writer. Well, maybe he's not a writer. Maybe he's a piano player. So
Yeah.
it's like maybe these kids should just find their natural roles. And that really strong kid, guess what? He's probably going to be the one, I don't know, doing the heavy lifting because he's really strong. And maybe the one who understands, woodwork and, hey, I learned about wood once before. I know how these things go together. He's going to be, the manager. He's going to manage the operation. And maybe the person who's sawed before, hey, I've got a really, strong arm. I've sawed before. I watched my dad do it. He's going to be the saw guy. And
And they're all
they'll
learning, and it's all
they're all-
cool.
Yeah.
It's all cool.
It's cool.
Yeah, you're gonna be like, dude, you know how to saw? That's awesome. And you're gonna
teach
watch.
me.
Yeah, and the kid's gonna be like, well, what are you really good at? Well, I used to be on the row team. Okay, that's cool. Teach me how to properly row. It's up to us, you and me, as teachers, to come up with new tasks that are creative and allow them to collaborate in an environment where they don't feel like we're telling them to do it.
Now, I have one big question for you.
Okay.
This is probably one that you won't be able to answer off the spot unless you're super clever. I don't know. We'll find out how
Okay.
clever you are.
All right.
What would you do in that situation, with the island and the boat thing, if you were in the inner city or even just a suburban area where there is no island or there is no woods or anything like that? If all they have is a blacktop asphalt tennis court or some bullshit like that or a patch of grass, then what? Then how do we do it?
You have to get more creative. You
Yeah.
have to relate to the kids. Kids are naturally curious. I don't think kids are naturally depressed. I don't think kids spend a whole lot of time complaining. If you get to know the kid, they'll tell you, hey, we got this spot down in an alleyway that's tons of fun. We fool around and we throw rocks and see who can make it to the top of the building. So it's like, okay, let's go out there for a day. Instead of being in class, let's go out there for a day. And I'll go, none of you can throw this rock over this building. So I'll give you all the tools you need and try to build something that throws it over, and I'll help you. And soon the kids are inventing things. They're coming up with slingshots, shooting them over the building. They're making their own little, like, rifles that, like, shoot the rock over the building. Or maybe, like, a kid is putting it on a fulcrum or put something in the middle of a piece of wood, puts the rock at the end, and they all jump on it, and it shoots it up in the air. Like, kids can come up with anything because they don't have any rules. They don't have the same rules that we do. They don't they don't have any limits. They're not. You just have to figure out what they do for fun and figure out a way to make that activity like that. Isn't that your job as an adult, as a teacher, is to try to interweave the education in with what they know and what they trust? Like, I guess that's how I would do it. You just have to be more creative.
And the funny thing is, if you took someone who was, I don't know, 25, they've got a college education, this and that, and they know all this stuff, they're gonna have a long list of things that aren't possible. Whereas that kid is gonna they have no list. Everything's possible. You can do anything. You just ask a question and think about it.
Yep.
And come up with something. Trial and error. Kids love to observe, research, theorize, build, and ask questions. They love that. That's how they learn. When you get older and you get out of the education system, you don't really do that anymore. You kind of just go by what you were told.
Yeah.
Like, they told me to do this, so I did this. It's kind of like a Nazi, basically.
Yeah. And it's just, you have to embrace that natural instinct within the child, and you have to become a friend of that child, because they're not going to open up to you. You got to get down to their level. They don't want to see. I didn't trust adults a whole lot because they were outsiders. They didn't understand my perspective. So you got to get down to their perspective. Don't bring them into your classroom. Go out to their classroom. See what you can learn from them. And then you're technically the smarter one in this situation, right? Like that's what the teachers want to believe. So be creative. Go to their environment, see how they do things, and figure out a way, write a curriculum that has education interwoven in their favorite things. And you'd be surprised what you can do with those kids.
And you were talking about kids going into back alleys and learning wherever they could, and so in an area where there's no nature, why not teach a kid how to make a nature? Like in that Hey Arnold episode when they clean up that alley or that lot. There's like a lot covered in like trash and litter and stuff. The kids get together, they go to the lot, they figure out their roles. They all help and clean up, and they make their own baseball field out of a junky, terrible lot. And then there's another episode, which is kind of cool, where big business was trying to tear down their like favorite tree or something, and the kids got together and they protected that tree and they saved it, and that's crazy. Mm-hmm. And one of the craziest things in modern cities is there's lots of room. We just have a bunch of old shit in the way. Let's get rid of that old shit.
Yeah.
Like, why is that factory from 1929 still there? We don't use it. It's hazardous. You can't go in it. What's the point of all this technology if we're still going to have all this old stupid shit anyway?
Well,
so all right. Some old stuff is good, but if we're...
No, I was going to be a smart ass and say, we're too busy tearing down the live trees. We ain't got time to tear down old buildings.
Yeah, exactly. And
costs too much money.
Let's tear down this brick building. Let's put trees there. Now we have a green place. Let's put a garden there. Let's put something there. And there's a lot of abandoned buildings like this that don't get used, can't be used, nothing's been done with them for hundreds of years. Let's go into these cities and start making some room. Let's take it back and just put some green stuff in. And now we have a place to put a soccer field or just a forest, a garden, anything, a place where people can go and find serenity, a nice little walkway with some benches, some trees, whatever, or not even, just doesn't have to be perfect. It could be crazy looking.
Yeah, kind of bring back the pavement, brick, gray, and black city and turn it into a more nature-looking, green, beautiful place. And you don't have to do it in big steps. You can do it in small steps.
Just bring some life back to these cities because the crime is so high because it's like it literally is just a huge, huge prison. That's all it is. There's so many...
You're stuck.
Yeah, you're stuck.
How long before those people get fed up?
I think they're already fed up. Look at them. People in city, look how they live. They live high anxiety, depression, crime.
Yeah, eventually they're just going to snap, though. They're going to snap and be like, why is all this depressing me? What is depression? What is anxiety? It's a feeling I labeled as bad. Why is it bad? What's making it bad? And they start asking these questions like, why do we keep killing each other? We're both in this shitty city. Maybe we should stop. Eventually, it's going to reach that point. I mean, there's houses in Detroit. They're going around and painting houses bright colors and writing things and collecting stuff and making houses look pretty with junk. And it's like the city collapsed. People were confused. They were unaware. They were unconscious of what they were doing. But what I see happening is people starting to wake up, and the artist in them is coming out. They're like, okay, I'm conscious now. I lost everything. I got knocked out of my illusion. And now you see pictures of houses being decorated with like hubcaps and all this cool like furniture and stuff, and they're writing all this stuff with graffiti and doing art. Like that's the artist comes out. It's like, what else are you gonna do? They don't want to participate in the killing and the anger and the evil. Like, why? There's no point anymore. What are you protecting? Maybe it's necessary. Maybe it's a cruel exercise. I don't know. Maybe the universe is like, this is what needs to happen. It's gotten too bad.
And I had we touched on this topic 2 weeks ago with Aubrey about bringing martial arts into schools, and I think that's something that should definitely happen. I mean, gym class is cool and all, but it's short. No one really participates except for those, 5 sporty kids who all think they're the best at kickball. And I think we could do so much more with that time, because if you take a look at the kids, I mean, kids are obese. They're bullies. There used to be 5 bullies. Now everyone's a bully. Everyone's like a mean person to each other.
Yeah.
And, school shootings and violence is just escalating quickly. And I think martial arts would be a way to kind of calm that down. Kids could learn maybe more defensive martial arts rather than attack, but that would also be a channel to kind of get some of that anger out. Even if they did, abuse that martial art, what's the worst that can happen? A kid gets punched in the face. So what? At least you don't have some kid coming in with a AK-47 or whatever the fuck they have shooting people.
Yeah.
You get punched in the face, whatever. You come back to school, you got some ice on your eye. It's not a big deal. Kids do that. That's another thing. I think it's crazy how we jam these kids in these schools and we like expect them not to fight. Like, really? Have you ever been to a prison? They fight. That's what they do at schools too. They fight. It's pretty obvious. The prison system and the school system are so, one's got books and computers and the other doesn't. That's like the only difference.
Except, you know what you can't do in prison? You can't go, can I go to the bathroom? Sure. And then head to the library and start reading a book.
A kid can't do anything. They got to sit in that desk and then walk to another desk and sit. That's like playing musical cells. Like, imagine if, like...
You have 5 minutes to get to the next class.
Yeah. Imagine if, like...
A bell rings, the gates open.
That's all
seriously,
it is.
A bell rings, the doors open, the gates open to your cell, and you walk in a line with everyone else to your next little cozy cell, and then the bell rings again, and meh, the door shuts. You're stuck in there.
It really is. I mean, I've seen things online where they have pictures of the blueprints for schools where they copy the exact blueprint of prisons, or vice versa. Wait a sec. You designed that school based off of the blueprints of a prison?
That's a little weird.
Yeah, it's pretty strange to me, but it's common. I mean, if you look at them, they all look the same. It's all just a blank building. And of course, now the big thing is they're going around, they're updating all these schools, the whole McDonald's facelift thing. Yeah, you can make the school look nicer on the outside, but the education on the inside is still as shitty as that McDonald's burger.
Yeah, it's like an illusion.
Yeah.
You have more ideas to share, or?
Nah, I mean, I think that's about it for now.
It's an hour and a half. That's pretty good. That's a half hour longer than our other ones. We've been putting out hour-long episodes.
Yeah, this one quote I read the other day by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. blew my mind. He said, our children ought to be out there on the water. This is what connects us. This is what connects humanity. And this is what we have in common. It's not the internet, it's the oceans. That kind of just blew my mind for like at least an hour. And every time I hear it, I'm still like, wow.
That's good. That's a really good quote.
Yeah.
We did throw around a lot of ideas of kind of a utopian type school system, but I guess my question to you is, are there any words of encouragement to kids that are in high school right now that feel trapped?
Well, what you can do is you can start asking questions. I think you should ask your teacher as many questions as you can, because otherwise, what's the point? Why are they your teachers if they can't answer your questions? So first off, start with asking questions. Ask everyone questions. Ask your parents questions. Ask me questions. Ask yourself questions. Ask cops questions. Because how else are you going to know? It's kind of crazy how, like, there's, like, a trillion laws that we have to, like, abide by. But I don't know any of them. I didn't get a handbook with them. I don't know. I don't know. How am I supposed to follow these rules if you never tell me them?
Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
We only tell you them when you get in trouble.
Yeah. So ask questions. That's one of the biggest things you can do. And, if you're sitting in class thinking, oh, this is stupid. Well, maybe it's not stupid. Maybe, I mean, there are some good things that come out of the textbook, but maybe they don't interest you. So, just try something else.
Yeah.
Try to just, if it really doesn't interest you, pick up a book, bring it to class, read in the back of class, or throw in the Mind Movers podcast. I don't recommend that.
The minds have been moved. This was a good episode. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun.
Just thought I'd put you on the spot.
Yeah,
at the end.
That's all I got. Threw me under a bus. No, I'm just kidding. Ooh, one more thing.
Okay.
When you're sitting in the back of class and you really don't care about what the teacher's talking about, just daydream. Just daydream.
Meditate.
It's good for you. Because how can you learn about the universe if you can't even imagine?
You can't.
Exactly.
I did tweet out that I would answer a question. I forgot to grab one, but I do have a couple at the top of my... someone asked, what do I think about homework? And here's what I think about homework. I think homework is okay, but our idea of what homework is, or the idea or philosophy behind homework right now, is not really what I think is the right thing. I don't think it's the way homework should be. I think it needs to be more creative, and it probably wouldn't even be called homework, and it would be optional. It might not even be an actual assignment. It might just be try to find something at home or in nature that you can bring back to this class and relate it in a creative way to this class. If you can't do it, fine. That's okay. That's your homework for tonight. And you might be surprised how many kids would bring in their homework that next day. If they had a little bit of freedom to do it and they weren't forced to do it. So what do I think about homework? Currently, I think homework's shit, but I think homework can be completely revamped into something that isn't seen as shit. I could see it as like a tool that opens up learning and the real learning, not the learning not the learning that school teaches you.
Snapplecat facts.
What?
Not Snapplecat facts.
Yeah, it's like the learning that you and I do when we go, I'm interested in this. I'm going to pick up a book on it and read about it. It's that kind of learning. The learning that's fun. And that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of schools making it so boring that when you leave, you go, I never want to learn on my own. I never want to seek a book and read it again. And there's kids out there that do that. They leave school and they go, I'm never touching a book again. And I think that's the biggest mistake. And, that's the question that I thought would be the best to answer on the podcast.
Yeah, and I like how you brought up learning in that way, because after school, just recently, really, I've started doing so much, what you would call schoolwork. I mean, for this podcast alone, I wrote 5 pages of information. I did a 5-page research
Paper.
essay or whatever you want to call it, just for this podcast, just because genuinely want it to.
Yeah.
And I do that for every podcast. And I do that for other things too. I just write up pages and pages of stuff. And I read books, not just books, romance novels or whatever you call them. I don't know, fiction stuff. I read a lot of books that are educational. They're almost like mini textbooks. I learn about herbs. I learn about this and I study this stuff. I have a big textbook that I learn about herbs. And mushrooms. I read that too, and I learn all this cool information. I research it further, and I'm not in school. I'm not being forced to do that. I'm just doing it because I genuinely want to.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's the kind of learning I think we should have our children be doing.
That's what will save you in high school right now. That's what will get you through the day. It's not the video game waiting at home. It's that hobby that you really like to do, that hobby that gets you to write those papers, that gets you to spend 3 hours researching how to even record a podcast, and having conversations with people that you like to have conversations with. It's that hobby that gets you through it, that hobby that you can think about all day at school and keep yourself sane. And it doesn't matter what the hobby is. It really doesn't. Just get creative with it and immerse yourself in that hobby. You like playing guitar? Play guitar. Write songs. Write notes. You're writing papers. That's what you're doing.
And you can apply that to school. Yep. So if your teacher says, hey, everyone's got to do a research paper on the color blue, and say you don't like blue, you like green. Just go ask the teacher. Say, hey, I don't really like blue. Can I do a research paper on green? And you know what? Chances are they might even say yes. There's a lot of pretty cool teachers out there.
Yeah, take a chance.
Were once students like yourself. So try and apply that. Like, hey, I didn't write a poem for class, but I have this song that I wrote on guitar because I play guitar. Can I just do that? Mm-hmm. They might be like, yeah, sure. So, just put it out there. Ask the teacher.
Get creative.
There are some douche teachers who are going to be like, no, but there are actually a lot of cool teachers out there who will be like, yeah, as long as you're learning. There are teachers like that out there. It's just
and
sometimes
always see what you can learn from everything. See what you can learn by going up and asking that teacher, can I do my project on green? Before you go up to that teacher, you're going to have to make a case, build an argument, and back up that case before you go up and ask the teacher. You might go up and say, can I do my project on green? This is why I think it'll be much better of a paper for you to go through and read. I know you probably don't want to read me writing about blue because you're going to be bored, but you might be super excited by the paper I make when I write about green because I'm passionate about it. All of a sudden that teacher's like, whoa, you just learned something by trying to switch what you should write your paper on. Don't go up there and get pissed. Don't go up there and say, I hate how you tell me I have to do this. Try to blend in and flow with the curriculum and make it work for you.
Make it work for you.
Yeah. That's how the universe works, too.
You just kind of change it as you go.
Yeah. You have to be creative, and it's good to be stressed out to be creative.
Yeah.
Bam.
Bam.
That was really good.
Yeah, we really got into it at the end. I like that.
We got in depth for the whole thing.
Yeah, definitely. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. It's number 9. We're probably going to title it Nature University. I mean, if you are listening, you'll probably know at this point because you clicked on it and listened to it. Yeah. But I'm going to tell you that anyway.
Podcast number 9, Change Education, Nature University.
Be sure to check out the new website, which is up currently or will be within the next couple days. That will be mindmoverspodcast.com.
Yeah.
Okay, that's mindmoverspodcast.com. And, we're going to have all our book recommendations, all the books that we talk about on the podcast. We'll have links there that you can order them through to support the podcast. We're going to have information and pictures of the herbs that we talked about and links so you can purchase them in a manner that will also support the podcast. We'll have some other information coming shortly, as well as, you can find all the podcasts on there too.
Yeah, and listen to them there. So that's pretty cool.
Ask us questions, stuff like that.
Yeah, there's forms to fill out to contact us. A lot of cool stuff. So it's gonna be exciting when we release that. So yeah, glad you could stick around on this adventure. And until next time, I'm at youth_thinking.
All right, thanks, guys. Also, if you have any questions, just ask with the hashtag MindMoversPodcast. I am at mind_of_peace. Peace. 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 Peace.